One of the questions that I get the most is, well, besides how big my hi-hats are, is how in the world do I play a certain phrase, or how do I play the way that I play without getting lost? And the answer, unfortunately, is always the same: count. But no one seems to ever take that advice because, well, counting, specifically counting out loud, is difficult. So just continue being lost, and maybe one day you'll actually learn to follow that piece of advice. So I'm working on this phrase. It's an 11-note phrase, kind of arbitrarily, because I have a habit of just taking patterns that I know I play a lot and putting them next to, or playing another pattern that I play a lot, like sandwiching the two, and I always end up with these interesting odd phrases. I found myself not being able to really perceive of it properly. What has a tendency to happen, especially with odd phrases that are a 16th note off or whatever, is our brain tries to approximate where it is based on the sound. And so we'll kind of cheat the pattern to the next eighth note or to the next quarter note, which is how a lot of times whenever you're playing with other people and you're trying to play this stuff, they get lost, because we often perceive these accents or low voices like bass drums to be on the downbeat or a quarter note, or even an eighth note if you're a little bit more rhythm savvy. And so sometimes things like that can be hard to follow, like this phrase here. I know you guys are super curious about specifically like the types of stickings that I use and the types of patterns that I use, and they kind of matter and they kind of don't, right? I'm using vocabulary that is already sort of inside me. I'm not learning anything new in order to kind of go down this hole of rhythm, this rabbit hole of rhythm. I'm taking concepts and patterns that I've played for years and I'm recombining them and putting them in different contexts. I'm not trying to reinvent my own playing every time I go into a different numerical pattern. I'm only just taking chunks of things that I've learned elsewhere, in my drumming life, to sort of repurpose them. In that way, you really shouldn't pay too much attention to what I'm playing specifically. It's really the how. If you have 5-note phrases or 6-note phrases or whatever, which is what I'm going to combine to get this 11-note phrase, you should use your own. It would make the process so much simpler, and you wouldn't be frustrated by first learning what I'm doing and then trying to count a new pattern on top of that. I mean, if you want to challenge it and you like it that much, fine. But that's not what I'm trying to teach. I'm just trying to teach a concept. So, the pattern that I'm using is a 6-note pattern followed by a 5-note pattern. And if you listen to it on its own, it kind of sounds like a swung but triplet thing, except there's a triplet missing. So whenever you approach that, I mean, you could nod your head to it. A lot of times people they'll do that and they'll hear the accent and sort of like sway in these bigger kind of waves. And, because they're so close, like your brain will kind of make up the remainder and without it sounding too weird. But as soon as you give it a reference, things kind of get a little weird. So I'm going to do the exact same pattern, but I'm going to play my hi-hat on quarter notes. And you can see how it's kind of strange. And so how do you perceive that? How do you keep your place? Well, let's start with 4/4, right? Because that's what we all play in the most. So try to count in 4/4. I'm going to have to scream because, well, I don't have like a lapel mic, but hopefully you guys can hear me. I'll try to play quiet enough for you guys to hear me in the overheads. So These work. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. And so, you know, a challenging thing that you can do is, instead of, if you want to keep it kind of duple, if you want to keep the 16th note thing going on, or I guess another way of putting it is, if you want to think about the pattern like 30-second notes, then you would count quarter notes, but have 8 notes per beat. You could also think about this as like, I don't know, counting half, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so here I'm going to try to do like a 30-second note thing. Yikes. Finally, maybe even do like a full, like, count whole notes. So, well, here it is. Just to get the thing over with, I kind of resolved it, but it would take, 11 measures for it to kind of cycle back. But I'm not necessarily concerned with the cycles. I'm not necessarily concerned of like where that one would hit again, because most of the time we're not playing in 11 bar forms. Most of the time we're playing, 4 bar, 8 bar, 16. And so that would be more appropriate to practice. So practice like 4 bars, 8 bars, or whatever. And then, try to start the thing at different points in the bar, play the thing once, play the thing twice, different note rates, all that stuff. And, but it's important to make sure that every single 16th note or whatever note rate that you choose is accounted for, or else you'll fall into the trap of approximation, of just rounding up or rounding down to the next available beat that you're used to. And that's sort of where the crap and the messiness, the looseness, and the miscommunications between bandmates happen. Anyways, I hope this helped. I'm gonna try to do this type of thing a little bit more often, because it's a lot easier than like the whole shebang. I do have some other things that I want to talk about, but there's no vlog portion this time because I'm kind of writing. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this. So, bye.